It is time for Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. Every week we work with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department as well as Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County on a program that we know works. We're going to feature 3 more fugitives this week. When we look back at our track record, we're at about a 70% capture rate, whether directly or indirectly because they were featured here on Cleveland 19. We know this program works. Tips that get called in for warrant units all over Northeast Ohio and the men and women who are out there trying to scoop up these fugitives and get them in front of a judge. Let's bring in, as we do every week, Detective Red Dyer with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Detective, how are you this morning?
Doing excellent, Dan. How about yourself?
You know, I keep going back to that 70% capture rate again, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether it was people that turned themselves in, whether it was just people that have been caught in the process of being featured on here. That is an incredible number, and it is due partially due to the viewers who see this, go after some reward money, but also because they want to clean up their streets. Why do we do this every week?
Well, Dan, I think you broke it down pretty well. Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County recognizes the value of our community, the eyes and ears that they provide in helping solve these cases, getting justice for these victims while they clean up their neighborhoods to remain completely anonymous. It also opens up the potential for a reward, which we'll get into a little later.
You know, Red, we've got some very serious fugitives today. When we think about the amount of crime, unfortunately, that just these 3 individuals alone are accused of at this point, everybody innocent until proven guilty, but they're facing serious charges. So let's not waste any time, especially when our first individual is wanted for aggravated murder. Let's get to the case of Terrence Holly. What do we know?
Well, Dan, what we know is that Terrence Holly is wanted by the U.S. Marshals Service in connection with the murder of an elderly female in December of last year. He is also wanted by the state of West Virginia for a parole violation. The original charge in that case was robbery and fleeing. So we're talking about a potentially dangerous individual that we need in front of a judge as soon as possible, Dan, and it can be as simple as making that phone call. He's approximately 5'10" and 270 pounds and may be residing on the east side of Cleveland.
Anytime we see a case like this, an elderly woman shot and killed, or at least killed, we're not exactly sure the manner in which this one played out, but this is an aggravated murder charge. I want to show his picture again just because that's how serious this is. Terrence Holly. Again, the U.S. Marshal Service is on the hunt. They have a very incredible unit there. The Violent Fugitive Task Force is very good at tracking down individuals like this. Red, when we get to our next case, crime doesn't discriminate. Criminals aren't just one portion of our population. When we think about sex offenders, of course, people are going to think mostly that they're men, and that is the case, but that's not to say that we don't have women sex offenders out there. That's what we have in the case of Barbara Wichrowski. What do we know?
Well, unfortunately, Dan, Miss Wichrowski has 4 warrants with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. In 2020, she pled guilty to attempted obstruction of justice and assault. Reports in that case state that Barbara entered a residence and began taking property. When she was confronted by the victim, she began fighting the victim. More seriously, Dan, she is also wanted for failing to register as a sex offender with the Sheriff's Department. In 2015, she pled guilty to attempted trafficking in persons. According to reports, in 2014, she took sexual pictures of the victim and posted them online without their consent and was involved in scheduling people wanting to answer sexual ads for the victim online in exchange for money. Ms. Wichrowski is 5'7" and 183 pounds, and she was last known to be staying in the 3900 block of East 75th Street in the city of Cleveland.
And I want to clarify for our viewers, when we see that attempted human trafficking or trafficking in persons, human trafficking gets too often confused that these are people who are put in boxes or put in cars or trucks and shipped over the border or shipped in from somewhere. That's not the only case. Human trafficking can be when someone has control over someone else, is maybe prostituting them out, selling them for sex. That is also considered human trafficking. And that is what she has pleaded guilty to in that previous case. We don't get a lot of smiling pictures in mug shots. Not sure why you would smile in a mug shot, especially when you're facing the amount of charges that our next case is. Let's get to Aaron Ward. What do we know?
Well, Dan, certainly nothing to be smiling about with these charges. Mr. Ward has 3 warrants with the Sheriff's Department. In 2023, he pled guilty to attempted discharge of a firearm on or near a prohibited premises. Reports in that case state that he shot at the victim with a firearm. He's actually prohibited from possessing firearms as well due to his criminal history. In another case, he's wanted for multiple counts of pandering sexually oriented matter involving a minor, as well as illegal use of a minor in nudity-oriented material. And unfortunately, Dan, every time an image like that is viewed or shared, that victim is re-victimized all over again. So it's very serious. He has a criminal history with the Sheriff's Department dating back to 2013. He's approximately 5'6" and 145 pounds, and was last known to be staying in the 9200 block of Adams Ave in the city of Cleveland.
I just want to read through the entire list of charges that Mr. Ward is facing. As you said, Detective, no laughing matter here. How about 8 counts of illegal use of a minor in nudity-oriented material? How about 9 counts of pandering sexually oriented matter involving a minor? I mean, those are just some of the charges that he faces and why we need to get him off the street and in front of a judge in a courtroom. Red, we do have success here when we feature these fugitives. Part of that success, as you mentioned, comes from our viewers. But you may have somebody that's been watching, especially in that case of aggravated murder. They may say, wait a second, I'm not making the call here. I don't want that person to ever know that I knew where they were, that I was the one that placed the phone call. That's why this program works. That's why Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County works, because when you call this tip number, walk us through what happens.
Well, Dan, as you said, a big part of why this is so successful is that with Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County, you remain completely anonymous. We don't record the phone calls. We don't take down your phone number or any other personal identifying information. Every contact you have with us is referenced through an anonymous tip number that's provided to you when you call us. So your information is never exchanged.
Right, that's so important. This isn't going to end up in a courtroom. The judge isn't going to say, oh, you were turned in by so-and-so. That's just not the way this works, because we want to protect the people who are trying to protect their communities. So important. 216-252-7463. Detective Red Dyer, when we start talking of up to a $5,000 reward, what do you like people to remember?
That crime doesn't pay, but Crime Stoppers does.
There are some talented men and women out there trying to make us all safer, and it can start with you with that one simple phone call. 216-252-7463 is the number to Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County. Well, Red, we did it again. 3 more fugitives out there. Let's hope for that 70% capture rate. Let's hope that continues, which means 2 out of the 3 of you that have just been featured, I'm going to say it again, good luck. Detective, thanks for the time today. We'll see you next week.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care, Red. That's going to wrap it up for Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. Again, if you know anything about these individuals, anything at all, it can be very simple. Where the person is hiding out, whose grandma or whose grandfather is hiding them in their basement, where they're working, under the table, what bar they hang out in, give Crime Stoppers a call. It can be that simple. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, our 11 o'clock news just about 20 minutes away on CW43. Remember, we are in a first alert weather situation for the weekend. Going to want to watch the systems that are rolling in both Saturday and Sunday to make sure that your Valentine's Day plans not only don't get canceled, but are as safe as possible. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.
All righty, Red, Patricia, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Great job, Dan.
Have a good one.
Take care.